Hi, everyone. I'm particularly glad to be given any space to speak to people at this time because I think in this insane uncertainty that we're all in at the moment, it's a really important life skill to have to know how to make choices and how to make decisions. I think people are asking all sorts of things like, do I need to pivot in my business right now? How am I going to make money? Do I want to continue homeschooling my kids after this is complete for those brave, brave parents out there? People are asking about their relationships, their partnerships. It's been quite an intense time for people as we're in the lockdown with our loved ones, and sometimes those relationships can take a lot of strain. So I just feel like it's a really important topic to be speaking about, how to make decisions at this time. And those of you who know of my book, the title of my book is called If You Loved Yourself, What Would You Do Now? And so if my topic is loving yourself and listening to your truth, why am I talking about choices and decisions? Well, in my opinion, I think that choices are actually all about self-love. So I just want to share a screen because there's a question that I wanted to put to you to start with, if I can manage to do it. This is what I actually want to ask. What is your biggest question about making good decisions at this time? What is it in general when you're thinking about making decisions or a good decision? What is the question that you sit with? I'd love to hear those. If you could put your comments in the chat box, that would be, or in the question and answer section, that would be really, really helpful because I'd like to see what your questions are. I really like to make my talks interactive, and what I mean by that is that if you ask questions, you can literally shape this talk to be what you need it to be. So ask your questions and I will do my very best to engage with what you're asking. And okay, so I'm just checking the chat box. So the questions that I'm seeing is, will this make the world a better place? Nicola's asking, what if I make the wrong decision? Yeah, there it is. Marco saying, is this for the greatest good of all? That's a great question. I often get asked, is this selfish? So I'm thinking that's a similar kind of question. Tracy Lee wants to know, what would my higher self tell me to do? We're going to be talking about that. Wait, oh, it's running away. I'm loving all your questions here. Suzanne is saying, will this decision reflect my higher self as I understand it? Oh, yummy questions. Helen is asking, am I making the right decision? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And what I really want from today for you, what I want to gift you with is that kind of a physical knowing of when something is the right decision for you and when it's not, precisely by checking in with your higher self or your inner truth. And I will explain what I mean by all of that. Helen Lynn is saying, how can I be sure this is serving my highest self? Oh, we're so good at fit, you people. This is great. Tanya is saying, how do you know that your decision is a good one? Absolutely. That's what we all sit with, isn't it? Emma is asking, does it make me happy and benefit myself and the world? Claire is asking, is this for my and others' higher purpose? Brenda wants to know, what will be the consequences of my choice? Oh, that's a harsh one. We can't possibly know, but we can get a sense of whether it will be a good consequence or not. Let me move the cursor down. I'm just reading all the questions and then I'm going to start speaking. And this way I know how to guide the examples that I give and what to aim for. Zella is saying, how do I know it's the right decision? Alexandra is saying, how do I know? I'm not sure if that one finished. Alexandra, oh, how do I know if it's my head or my intuition speaking? Ah, yes, we're going to speak about the head and the heart. Claire is asking, what is the lesson here? Yeah, that's an important one as well, to be aware of what is the lesson when I'm facing this choice. Janice, will I be safe if I do this? A good one. Alexandra, we said. Claire, how can I grow from this? How do I really feel about this? Oh, I'm very excited to be speaking to you guys because I'm going to be giving you specific tools to answer these questions. Shira is asking, how do I allow for making a mistake? Oh, yes. How do we be kind to ourselves? Hi, Shira. It's so nice to see you here. Glenn is saying, why am I afraid to make decisions sometimes? I'm going to do my best to address that in the little bit of time that we have. Cindy wants to know, is my resistance to an option I am deciding on because of a gut feel or because it's out of my comfort zone? Oh my gosh, I can talk a whole hour on that. That is a yummy question. Nizma is asking, I guess trusting your intuition leads to a good decision, I guess even if sometimes we don't really know. Yeah. I think a lot about intuition and trusting your intuition is making space for not knowing, for being in uncertainty and yet still trusting. Karen is saying, Anita is saying, will I be able to sleep peacefully at night? That's one of my favorite things to be able to say to someone. A friend once said to me, those moments before you fall asleep at night, when it's just you and your pillow, that's when you know if you're okay with yourself. And I think that's the same as your question is, will I be able to sleep peacefully at night? And we have to be able to know with the choices that we make and the decisions that we make that we're going to be okay with it ourselves. And that I think is the core of peaceful decision making and decision making that's satisfying to us as well, because we are whole with it. Karen is saying, I find it very difficult to make decisions. How can I improve and listen to myself more? I really hope, Karen, that after this evening's chat, you will be able to at least feel upskilled with that. Susan is saying, how will I know if I'm deciding out of zero? Not sure what that means, but I'm not sure what that means. So Susan, if you want to say more about that, but maybe other people have said what you mean already. Bev is saying, I know the right decision, but not sure when the right time. It feels scary in the unknown. Oh boy, it sure does. We're designed not to like the unknown. Our brain is designed to avoid it because the brain's purpose is to keep us safe. And when the brain doesn't know something, it doesn't know if that thing is going to hurt us or kill us. And so we are literally genetically programmed and neurologically wired to avoid the unknown and uncertainty. That's why it makes us so anxious. The brain tells us to get away from it. So it's really normal to feel uncertain in the unknown. How do I let go and trust? How do I live in this present? Is it okay not to make too many decisions right now? Yes, that's a good question. How does this support life? How to make the brave choice over the safe choice and change? Gosh, there's so many good questions here. Sometimes I find that my intuition does warn me out a path, but warn me about a path, I think, but there is great learning down that path. So it earns me that it will be uncomfortable, but I will grow spiritually down that path. You know what? Our heart and our bodies actually tell us what to do with that particular thing. Meant to type ego, not zero. Okay, how to do it out of truth and not ego. Yes. Warn me about. Yes, got it. Okay. So we're a very good fit. This is exactly all of what I'm going to be speaking about. And as we go along, I see there's some things in the Q&A. Let's just see what those are. How to trust the media controlling of our inner truth. Oof. How do I find the inner strength to not keep going back to the same partner? I break up with him. He wears me down as he doesn't leave me alone. I cave in and repeat all the same things with him. Anonymous, you are not alone. That is such a common experience. Thank you for having the courage to write it here. Is it possible to make a wrong decision, or will you be guided to make the right decision for your life purpose? Yeah, that's a philosophical question, I suppose. Is it possible to make a wrong decision? But as I speak, I hope that you get the answer to your question. Can you describe how intuition feels? Yes, I'm actually exactly going to describe that. Okay, fantastic. So there are lots of questions. You see someone else, Claire, is also saying to Anonymous that you're not alone. And as I said to you, look at our poll. Relationships were the top thing that people want to know about. So my topic is self-love, and yet I am talking about decisions. And why? Because the way we decide and the choices that we make are absolutely about self-love. You know that moment, and Anonymous, thank you for giving me, that was one of the examples I was actually going to use, but you know that moment when you've just made a choice, or you've just realized that you've made a choice that is not self-loving. You've had that second helping when you said you weren't going to, you drank that wine when you didn't want to, you went back to that relationship again that you know is not good for you. You didn't stand up to that friend who always says the mean things. You're still at the same job and you feel miserable about it, and your New Year's resolutions have fallen down the drain. You know that moment when you realize that you've just done that thing again. It's a horrible moment, isn't it? You pick up your drug, you have binge watched series instead of doing something productive, you've procrastinated again, you're avoiding, you shouted at the kids, whatever it is that's going on. There is a moment when you realize that you've just done that thing again, that you said you weren't going to do, that you promised yourself you weren't going to do. And there you are, and you've done it again. And it's that horrible sinking feeling, your chest sort of tightens up, there's sometimes a heat inside, and sometimes we're angry with ourselves, and very often it's a feeling of hopelessness and feeling powerless over this thing, and being scared that it's never going to change. I wonder if anybody knows what I'm talking about. If you can give me a thumbs up or just say yes in the comments section, raising. Yeah, okay, people are recognizing this. Okay, thank you. I was hoping that you'd know what I'm talking about, because pretty much everybody I've ever spoken to in all of my 23 years of working with people and seeing their lives unfold and seeing how the choices they make impact the consequences that they live out. Everybody knows that feeling, and every one of us has our own vices and our own ways that we do that. So Anonymous, I hope right now you're feeling better, because please just look at the chat section and just see all the thumbs up and the oh yes and the absolutelys, okay? There's a reason that feels so bad, and that reason is that you have done something which wasn't your truth. I'm going to explain what I mean by that, but there's a very important reason that we feel so awful when we choose something that is not self-loving. So I'm going to try and talk about this in the short period of time that we have. I run 6-week courses about this, and at the end of the 6-week courses, people say, that's not enough. There's still so much to say and explore. So I'll do my best, and I'm going to try and equip you. I'm going to explain why it feels so awful, and then we will do an exercise if you're up for it, a little meditation, so that you can really get a sense, a visceral, physical sense of what it feels like to listen to your heart's truth, and what it feels like when it's a yes for you and when it's a no for you. And I hope that will answer some of the questions and give you some skills. So let's go. I'm just checking my notes to see. I suppose I should, I'm doing my little slides here a minute. So, choices. Choices are the building blocks of our lives. If you think about it, you make hundreds of choices every single day. You choose what time you're going to wake up, you choose what you're going to wear, what you eat for breakfast, you choose how to respond to your partner who's just said that nasty thing, you choose which way you're going to drive to work. There's so many things that you do, and every single one of those choices are building your life. little bit by little bit, choice by choice, we create our lives. And what you choose is what you land up living out, right? I mean, you choose that outfit and then you have to live it for the rest of the day. You choose that reaction to your child or your partner or your boss or your colleague or yourself, and you have to live out the consequences of that. And what I find completely fascinating is that I have watched people living their lives. I have an incredible privilege of watching other people's lives and seeing them make the choices and seeing what happens from those choices that they make. And what I see over and over and over again is that we do not listen to ourselves. We do not listen to ourselves. We are so trained by our society and our parents and our schooling system, and the capitalist system is a prime bully when it comes to this regard. We're very deeply trained out of listening to ourselves. We're told, don't be so sensitive, don't be silly, that's unrealistic, it won't work, how will you earn money doing that? We're told many, many things. We're also told not to listen to ourselves by people who really love us and want the best for us, partly because they really want the best for us and they think that what we're wanting and feeling is not a good idea. And sometimes they convince us or make it difficult for us to listen to ourselves. They convince us out of it, or they make it difficult for us to listen to ourselves because it's inconvenient for them. It's going to force them to have to face things that they'd rather not face. So generally speaking, people aren't trying to be mean, but we are all quite strongly trained out of listening to ourselves. And because of that, we are not really taught how to make decisions. So how many of you have been taught that to make a good decision, you have to weigh the pros and the cons and make a list and think of what the outcomes of each one will be, and then decide, okay, this rationally looks like the right decision, and that one sounds really nice, but I think it's unrealistic, and so I'd better go and do the rational thing. Does anyone relate to that? Is that anyone what we were taught? Yeah. Brenda says, yes, taught that all the time. Absolutely. Pleasing others and doing what's the right thing. My whole life, says Amy. Oh, the right thing. That one's a real nasty one. So the thing is that we make choices by listening to the outside, by listening to what seems like the right thing and what our head tells us is good and what society tells us is going to be the rational thing to do. And we build our lives with the building blocks of our choices towards what other people think is right, towards what we've been taught is the right thing. But the crazy, crazy thing is that that is often not what is right for us. And so we make choices based on external criteria or external signposts, and we land up living a life that doesn't feel right for us, that's disappointing, that leaves us feeling very unfulfilled and our needs not met, and we're surprised. And we say things like, but I've done everything right. I did what I was told to do. I did my best to please everyone. How come I'm depressed? How come my life hasn't turned out like I wanted to? I've been good. I've done everything the way I was taught to do. And again, I'm assuming that people are resonating with this because I've heard this so many, many times, and I've seen this, you know, anytime I've had to, of course, train myself out of that, like all of us are having to. Let me just see. Yes, absolutely. Trained to remove the emotion. Marizanne says, my parents never allowed us to make decisions. We were told what to decide, so making decisions are really tough for me. I'm so glad that you're here. I used to, but not for a number of years anymore. Yay, Paula. Ilana says, I've learned to totally trust my intuition. It has always proven to be right. Ilana, we're going to just support that and strengthen that today. Penny, I want to go with my gut, but then second guess everything because I haven't done the pros and cons. You know, sometimes the pros and cons are very reassuring for the mind as well. And we have to honor every part of us. Glenn says that's exactly where I am at my life in the moment. Nisma says, yes, to do everything for everyone gives you disappointment at times. Yep. What about other people's choices that have an adverse effect on me? Yeah, good one. That one comes into the relationships thing, right? So, you know, has anyone ever heard that wonderful expression, life doesn't come with an instruction manual? If only life came with an instruction manual. Has anyone heard that? Give me a yes or a thumbs up or something. I know it's something that I've heard people say lots of times. Great. So some people at least have heard that thing. Well, here's what I want to say to you. It is, yeah, I know they always say, I wish parenting came with an instruction manual, but here's the good news. That is completely false. It's incorrect. Life and parenting comes with an instruction manual. Yes, it really does. It's inside. It's this intuition that everyone's asking about. It's an incredible thing that we have, an actual, I call it the internal GPS. It's a guidance system, like the satellite system that tells your car where to go. There's a very deep knowing that we come in with, and we have this consistent guidance for every single step that we want to take and every decision that we're considering and everything we're unsure about. We have a knowing. We actually have guidance all the time. And so how do I read it? Thank you. Yes. So that's the next question inevitably is, okay, so I have this guidance system. How do I get hold of this thing? How do I access it? So I'm not sure if to share. Yes, I will. I will do it. So hang on. I hope you can only see this one slide. In every decision that you face, in every choice that you make, right at the center of that choice, there is a sacred moment. It's a very important and powerful moment that you meet in every single choice and decision that you make. And in that sacred moment, you either turn towards your truth or you turn away from it. So how can you know which decision will be the right one? Well, because you can feel it. We couldn't see the slides. Use your mouse to click. I have been doing that, so somehow it's not sharing. But the slide said, it was a pretty slide, and it said, in every decision, there's a sacred moment in which you either turn towards your truth or you turn away from it. So I think I'm going to have to lead my slides because it's sharing my entire folder. Okay, so we're going to leave the slides. I don't really need them so much anyway. Okay, let me go back to the sacred moment because that's the crux of this whole thing, and that's what we're going to focus on for today. In this sacred moment, you either turn towards what you know to be true for you. And we always know what's true for us. We deny it, we quickly run away from it, we turn away from it because it's sometimes quite scary to see, but we know, each one of you knows. When you're coming towards a decision, there's this quiet little knowing. And so we either allow ourselves to go towards that knowing or we do not. And there are millions of reasons that we do not. And some of them are the ones that we've just spoken about. It's not the right thing to do. It will disappoint someone. It'll make something inconvenient. It's really scary. It will mean change. It will mean stepping out and feeling exposed. Yes, Nisma said the voice inside that we don't listen to. Exactly. So let me tell you what happens, because I, again, get to see the outcomes of choices. And by now, for me, it's almost like a formula of 1 + 1 = 2. It becomes that simple. I can, in fact, just the other day, I was talking to somebody in my therapy room, and she was considering making a choice, and I actually had to say to her, how do you think this is going to play out if you stick with this choice in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Do you think that you will remain happy with this choice? And because I could see that she was choosing something that was the nice thing to do, and it wasn't what she actually wanted. So someone's asking, but what about when emotions get involved? Okay, so let me help with that. I just want to say, when you turn towards your truth, it is a feeling that everything's okay in your world. When you know something and you have a knowing and you know what your preference is, and then you turn towards it and you go with that thing, or you give yourself permission to do that thing, you feel heard, you feel attended to, you feel important, you feel like you matter, and you feel loved. Your needs are met. It just is a sense, it can be a mild sense or quite an intense sense, that everything's okay in the world. So in that moment of the decision, when you turn towards your truth, it gives you a feeling that everything's okay in the world, in your world in particular. Now, when you repeatedly turn towards your truth, you land up living a life that feels delicious to you. Other people may not understand it, but you know that that is exactly what you want, and it feels really great, and you feel safe. Now, when you turn away from your truth, the very opposite happens. When you turn away from your truth, you get a mild to intense experience that something's wrong in the world. Something's off, something's not quite as it needs to be. It might even feel quite threatening. So for example, Anonymous's example of going back to a relationship that you know is not good for you, or living with a bully, someone else wrote, that could be a kind of a danger signal, actually, when you choose not to leave again, or when you choose to go back to it again, when you know that you're going to get hurt. That could actually feel like stepping in front of a car. You know, you're endangering yourself. That's the way you'll feel about it. But it can be a milder thing as well. So for example, if you are if you put in a bit of effort for someone, and you make a special effort for them, and then they don't acknowledge it, and you have a need for acknowledgement, right? But you're not receiving the acknowledgement, and it feels like something's not okay in the world. And then they ask you for another favor, and you say yes. You're not going to feel good. And let's say they repeatedly ask you for favors and you always say yes, and they don't ever acknowledge it. Every single time you turn away from what you know you need in that moment, which is appreciation, respect, reciprocity, acknowledgement, every time you turn away from your truth and you turn away from your needs, you'll become more and more resentful, unhappy, feel downtrodden. And on a more extreme level, when you consistently in your life turn away from what you know is true for you, if you turn and choose the job that you know isn't good for you, you stay with a partner, or you choose a partner that you know isn't right for you, you choose food that makes you feel bad. Let's say you're lactose intolerant or gluten intolerant, and you keep eating those foods, you're going to end up feeling, I mean, physically you'll be bloated and in pain, but emotionally you'll end up with anxiety and depression. So as a clinical psychologist, I get to work with people in quite dire situations sometimes, and I've worked in psychiatric hospitals and in the clinics in Mitchell's Plain and in Delft, and I've seen the outcomes of the choices that people make, and I really know that by the time somebody comes to see me, they are at the tail end usually. Sometimes it's a life event that's happened to them, but generally speaking, when someone is coming and they're in crisis and they're saying to me, my life is a mess, my emotions are a mess, I don't know what to do now, I know that my task is to sit with them and look at what they've chosen and unravel all the choices that they've made where they have overridden their truth again and again and again. Because for me by now, as a practitioner, I can see that when you override your truth again and again, it leads to anxiety, depression, road rage, binge eating, binge watching, addictive sex, playing on the phone, drugs, any of the things that any of us struggle with, relationships, unhappy situations. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. If you override your truth again and again and again, you're going to land up with one of those things. And the reason for that is because when you override your truth, you have deep needs that are not being met. Our truth is our heart calling out to us, saying, this is what I need, this is who I am, this is how I want to express in the world. And if we turn around to our heart and ourself and we go, shh, this is an inconvenient truth, I can't listen to you, I can't follow. It's okay to do it once or twice, but if you do it all the time, you're going to have an inner rebellion and you're going to try and meet those needs in other ways. So that's when we use food to try and get love, the comfort eating thing, or we binge watch a series because we just need to check out because we don't want to think about what we're thinking about or feel what we're feeling. So is this making sense to people? I want to see, are there any questions at this stage? I see people are raising their hands. Does it mean that you have questions, or does it mean that you're just resonating? I'm checking the question and answers. Let's just see. Someone's asking, how do I include my health in my future plans, as I'm mostly focusing on my career, not my health? Another one saying, is it too much to ask yourself, if I were to die now, would I live again knowing how I had lived before? That's such a powerful question. I think it's such a useful question, actually, because it's really a very potent meeting of yourself and asking whether you're okay with the choices you're making, and if, would you do this again? It's a great question. I love the way you've put it. Someone is saying, I've been in an abusive relationship for 7 years, an amazing man, but actually a very emotionally abusive man. He has hit me in the past. He chases me and chases me. I haven't seen him for 6 months, but I'm sad, trying to find purpose and myself. Also, he's sending mean stuff now of other women and how I failed him. I'm just sad and want to forget and be better. Oh, my heart is going out to you because you are so not alone. Perfect sense, Sabrina. Thank you. I'm going to do my best to answer, and I hope that what we're talking about is going to answer some of those questions. Let's see the chat. People are resonating. Yay. I struggle with doubt. Is doubt intuition saying no, or is it some rational fears, especially in work and relationships? Okay, people are resonating. Yay. How does a feeling like insecurity fit in? Well, insecurity is a good one. It's a great question, because insecurity comes when we know that our needs are not going to be met. And that is a very unsafe place to be. If you know that you're going to have a need and you're going to override that need, it's just scary, quite frankly. And it's one of the things that creates anxiety. I can't seem to let go of loving X, even though those who care say I shouldn't go back. Heart says yes, head says no. Which way? Okay. Are you guys ready to try and exercise with me? Just say yes, no. Oh, wait, I can't start the exercise. Thank you for wanting to start the exercise, but I have to give you the question first, the tool. Otherwise, what are you going to do the exercise on? Okay, so the topic of my book, the title of my book is If You Loved Yourself, What Would You Do Now? And that is the tool that I use. I use variations of it, but the tool is a question. And that question is to pause in the moment and be able to say to yourself, if I loved myself, what would I choose to do now? Or if I loved myself, what would I choose to say to myself now? And there are many variations of that question. Like somebody had asked earlier, if I had no fear, what would I choose to do now? if I knew I would be okay, what would I choose to do now? If I knew everybody else would also be okay, what would I choose to do now? Lee is saying, I pray that during this lockdown journey, many people will make choices around the human race, avoid the toxic bad energy groups, individual, and let's spend time in the now, just be. Thank you, Lee. I'm really hoping that that is also the case. And it is an amazing time to be practicing making choices. Okay, so how do we do it? Okay, Mark is saying just select the actual slide first. Sorry for this, everyone. And then share screen. I'm going to try. Let's do it. It doesn't look. Okay, I'm just running with that. I see, I don't know if Mark, you put it up there, but anyway. So this is how to use this. Can you see it? Yay. Thanks, Mark. All right, so how do you use it? The first thing you do is that you acknowledge your situation. And what does that mean? It means that you don't analyze it or judge it. And hey, just remember, this is coming from a clinical psychologist who's saying don't analyze it, okay? So really trust me when I say this is a practical thing, that you simply acknowledge your situation. So for example, the situation might be, I'm sitting here feeling gross. I've just eaten the whole packet of biscuits and I didn't even mean to eat one, but then I was allowing myself one and now I'm sitting here and I've eaten the whole packet, right? So there's no analysis there. There's no judging. It's not like I'm terrible, I'm useless. Why did I do it? It's just like, here I sit feeling gross. I've just eaten the whole packet of biscuits. So then you say, if I loved myself, what would I choose to do now? Or if I loved myself, what would I choose to say to myself now? And then you kind of say, well, I mean, if I loved myself, I would think I'm okay. If I loved myself, I would be wanting to be kind to me. If I loved myself, I would cherish me. I would treat myself like the people I love when I'm treating them well. So if I loved myself, I would say to myself that my worth doesn't depend on whether I've eaten a whole packet of biscuits or not, that I'm still a good human. We're going to talk just now about the yes and no feeling. And as soon as I say that to myself, that my worth doesn't depend on whether I've eaten the whole packet, there's a part of me that calms down and it feels a little bit better. You see, I'm not fixing anything. I'm simply saying something loving to myself. And as soon as we do something loving towards ourselves, it sort of settles down that whole freaking out fear response in the brain. And then as soon as a feeling of stress, anxiety, or disquiet comes, then that's a new situation. So you'd be like, okay, so my worth doesn't depend on it, but now I'm sitting here feeling gross and I'm not going to fit into my jeans tomorrow. And that's the new situation, which would be, I'm sitting here, I understand that my worth doesn't depend on whether I ate the whole thing, but now I'm feeling scared that I'm going to be fat tomorrow. If I loved myself, what would I choose to do now? And your answer might be, we're in lockdown, so I can't go for a walk, but I'm going to put on a song that I like and dance around the lounge for a few minutes. So I want to do this exercise with you before we run out of time. So Mark, we can take that, we can leave it on or take it off. I don't know if you can still see me when we're on. Okay, so let's do this exercise. It's a little meditation and I don't want you to miss out on it because it's a very important part of this. So if you're okay to close your eyes, do. Otherwise, just rest your eyes on the ground in front of you on some nondescript surface and bring your attention to your breath. You're going to do a little meditation to feel something out. So just notice your breath. And take a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose. Let it fill out your stomach if you can, so that your belly button rises, not just your chest, and release it when you're ready. And again, a nice, slow, deep breath in. And release when you're ready. And a third one, just slow, deep breath in and let it go when you're ready. I want you to bring the word yes to mind. Simply bring that word yes or ja, or if you have whatever your first language is, bring that word of yes into your mind and just feel it out. What does that feel like? Yes. What happens in your body in response to this word? Where do you feel it most strongly in your body? Simply notice it. Don't try and do anything with it. You're just observing. You want to get the feeling of this word yes. Does it come with any colors? Any images? Yes. Really let yourself lean into it and feel that feeling of that word yes. Great. Now let it go. Let your mind become clear and bring your attention back to your breath. And again, in your own time, take a nice, slow, deep breath in and release it whenever you're ready. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Slow, deep breath in and out. Now I'm going to ask you to bring the word no into your mind. And just really get a feel of that word. Almost get a sense of it, a taste of it. No. If English isn't your first language, use your first language and the word no. And just notice what happens in you in response to this word no. Notice what happens in your body. Notice where you feel it most strongly in your body. And what that sensation is. Is there a color of some kind that goes with it, or colors? Are there images or a picture or symbol? No. Just get a sense of what no feels like for you in your body. And let it go and bring your attention back to your breath. And simply slowly take a deep breath in and release when you're ready. And do that 2 more times in your own time, breathing in and releasing in slowly. Great. And now I'm going to ask you to bring the word maybe into your mind. Maybe. Feel that word out. Again, use your first language. Maybe. Same feeling. Feel it out. Notice where you feel it in your body most strongly and what those sensations are. Notice if there are any colors or any pictures, any sensations. Just really get a sense of what maybe feels like for you. And let it go and bring your attention back to your breath. Nice, slow, deep breath in and release in your own time. And 2 more breaths in and release. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I would just love a couple of comments from you as to what that was like. Your yes, your no, and your maybe. What did that feel like? What were the sensations? What were the experiences? Great. Penny saying very different colors and textures. Yes, feels good. Yes was green, yellow, no, yellow and blue, like a perfect sunny day outside. Yes and no were clear. I felt them in my center, heart center, maybe felt wishy-washy. Yes feels like freedom. Fantastic. I hope you are all reading each other's comments as well. I can't read them all because I'm just enjoying watching them all go through. So now I want to say something important because it comes up in the workshops a lot, which is that for some people, no feels wonderful and yes feels awful. Because I see most people are writing that yes feels really good. And often you'll find that people who are people pleasers, chronic people pleasers, unhappy people pleasers, will find yes to feel like a no and no to feel like a yes. So the idea of saying no is so very liberating to them that it feels wonderful to say no. And what that means is that their no is their yes. Saying no to the outside thing is saying yes to themselves. And people who say to me that they're not good at saying no, my response is always, that's not true. You're very good at saying no. You're just very good at saying no to yourself. Because anytime you say no to someone else when it's something you don't want to do, you're saying yes to yourself. And if you're saying yes to something you don't want to do, you're saying no to yourself. So most people really could feel a difference between the yes, no, and the maybe. So what I want to say is when you ask this question, and all of you were saying, what is intuition? How do I know if it's right, if it's wrong? And again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to squeeze like 2 months of exploration into a small little hour. But what I really want for you to know is that feeling, I hope that you journal a little bit after this is over to write down for yourself what your yes felt like, what your no felt like, and what your maybe felt like. Because when you ask, Mark, are you able to put that slide back up with that list of the steps so that people can see it and maybe screenshot it or something? So thank you so much. So the first thing that you do when you're faced with any decision is you acknowledge your situation. This is the situation I'm in. Somebody wrote in the chat, and this is a great one to do it on. She said, Amy, I know what industry I want to work in and how to get there, but there's always the but. Things that override that truth call seem rational: money, time, other sacrifices. And that's when the journey is delayed. When does one actually stop and say, now I will follow my truth? Right, so Amy, I want to use your example. First thing to do is you acknowledge your situation. I know what industry I want to be in. I've heard my truth many times, but I doubt myself and I haven't done it. And I want to, but I don't know when is the right time to say no because it seems rational to not do it. So that's the situation. There's no analysis there. You're not explaining why and what was it in my childhood that led to this situation. All of that's relevant, but not in this moment when you're asking the question. You simply go, this is the situation. Then you say, if I loved myself, Amy, I wonder if you could respond, actually. It would be great if you do. Ask yourself, if you loved yourself, if I loved myself, what would I choose to do? And sometimes that feels like a big, brave answer, but very, very often people are scared because they say, oh, if I ask myself if I loved myself, then I would have to change jobs and do it now. But actually, prepare yourself to be surprised because the answers that come from within, those intuitive answers, those answers that come from your truth and your heart, are often quiet little surprising things, and they're always just the next step. You will always get accurate step-by-step guidance from your inner wisdom, your heart, which tells you what to do next. So Amy, I don't know if you've answered no, but so for example, she might say, if I loved myself, I would start by telling myself it's not unrealistic, that if I'm feeling this kind of drive for this long, it must be real. That's it. And that will already be an amazing thing for her to experience if she's doubting herself all the time. So that would be calming. Now, what you want is to listen for the yes feeling. That is how you know it is your heart speaking and not your head. Those of you who are asking, how do I know? How do I do it? Not from ego. How do I? Because you will get a yes feeling. The other day, someone said to me, oh, it feels like the sun has just risen in my chest. So the yes feeling usually comes with a sense of opening in the chest, a relaxation of the shoulders, a deepening of the breath, your muscles relax, your pupils dilate, and it's that feeling of, oh, everything's going to be okay. So you're looking for that yes feeling. If you get your no feeling or the maybe feeling, that's not it yet. Ask again. Go, yeah, not it. Okay, if I loved myself, what would I choose to do? If I really found myself precious and important, what would I choose to do? I'm aware of time, so I'm rushing now. Now, as soon as this feeling of stress or anxiety or disquiet come, that's your new situation. So let's say you say, okay, I would acknowledge that it is true. And then it's like, oh, but what am I going to do about it? Then that's the new situation. So now the situation is, I've acknowledged that it's true, and now I'm anxious. If I loved myself, what would I say to myself now? Or if I loved myself, what would I choose to do? And then the answer might be something small, like, I'd start Googling what it's like to do that job. And that will feel like, oh, yes, that's a good, yes, I like that idea. It's a good beginning. So your truth is never going to give you more than you can handle. It's never going to whack you over the head or slap you through the face with some shocking, horrible realization. It's only ever going to lovingly give you the very tiny next step that is going to take you to where you're longing to go. Even if it's a secret longing, it's going to get you there because you keep checking in with your truth, and it is going to tell you. So I know that we're out of time. It's now 9 o'clock and we need to finish. So I hope that that was helpful. I mean, if it was up to me, we would continue having a long conversation and I'd want to hear all your questions. So I think that that's me. I would love to, your explanation of the sacred moment where you turn towards or away from your inner truth has been a revelation for me. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for saying that. That's what I want to give, because I think this is information that we inherently have the right to. And quite frankly, I mean, I can get quite vociferous about this. I think we need to have been taught this in kindergarten and in our homes. But the problem is that our parents weren't taught this and our teachers were not taught this. They were taught to support the system. And we are entering into a phenomenal period of time with this massive, scary world transformation that's happening that is really pushing us into a space where we have to listen and make choices from a place of inner knowing, because the outside is all shifting. And so we can't really rely on the outside anymore. And while that is quite terrifying, and a lot of people are finding that their circumstances have changed, financial situations are crashing, a lot of unknowns, a lot of fear. But within all of that, one of the things that I can see is starting to shift is that people are not taking the outside as a solid point of reference for their decision making anymore. And that, for me, is one of the ways that we're going to heal ourselves as a human community. So I want to spread this word. I want to say it to as many people as possible, because I think we inherently need this information. This is my service. This is how I'm choosing to serve, is to teach people how to make choices from this deep place of inner knowing, from being aligned to your hearts. I want to see some of the comments, and then Mark, you can cut in anytime when you need to cut us off. Thank you. This has been an incredible talk. Oh, thank you, Cindy. You're one very special human. Thank you for your medicine. I've signed up for your mailing list and look forward to joining the workshop. I would gladly pay for it too. Thank you, Cindy. I'd love to have you there. I'm just, this has been fun. I wish we could talk more. I'm a big engager. Your explanation of the sacred moment, it's what I read before, but it's worth reading again, Glenn. Thank you, so helpful. It was amazing. Yay. maybe was in throat, no, heart throbbed fear, yes, was at peace. Oh, Marcia, you need to write that down for yourself. Write your reactions down, because that's how you're going to ground it, so that you know what your yes is, what your no is, and what your maybe is, because you want to know when you get that answer from your heart, if your chest opens up. I can see when someone's having a yes response or not. I can see when it's in their heart or their head. And that's also my answer to some of the questions of how do you know if it's ego or not. I can literally sit and see the physiological reaction when someone is having a yes reaction. Their muscle tone changes, their pulse slows down, their breathing softens, their skin color shifts, their shoulders go down, their breathing deepens, their chest expands, and they sit more relaxed. I can physically see the shift. And so I'm telling you that this is your guidance system. You have it inside of you. And just listen to it. It is going to take you to beautiful places. Thank you so much for a wonderful 1 hour tonight. I felt the shift in January, so I've actually coped well during this lockdown, and will include your advice of choice and self-love. Magical. Yay. I'm so very, very glad. Mark, I hope I get to keep this so I can read through these incredible comments. Thank you for your service. Your time has been absolutely amazing. I have signed your mailing list. I would love to join you for one of your workshops in time to come. Yay. Thank you, everyone. I love it. So, Mark, I'm handing over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Eilat. That was really amazing. It was everything that I thought it would be when I read your book. And I'm so glad you agreed to share your wisdom with our audience. So for everybody listening, yes, we'll send an email shortly with Eilat's mailing list details and anything else that you want to, all the other contact details. The winner of the book, our random number generator selected subscriber number 10, who is Mina Deva or Mina Deva. And Mina, I see you are still on the call.
Yay, so, Mina! Woo!
Congratulations.
I'll you a digital copy directly myself.
Great. I'll be sending your email address to Eilat tonight, and she will be sending that to you. So guys, thank you very much for being here, for listening in. And Eilat, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. I really appreciate your time tonight. And I'm sure I know everybody else did, because I can see the comments coming in, and it was really wonderful. So thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.